got an email from one of our radio listeners to Ag PhD Radio, and he's in Montana this summer, and he said, you know what, I've sprayed these weeds twice, can't get them under control. We haven't had rain all summer. Could that be the big factor here?
So today during our Farm Basics time, we want to talk about controlling drought-stressed weeds. In most cases, you can still control them, but you might have to do some things just a little bit different than if growing conditions were great.
All right, think about dry conditions. What happens to plants? Well, they're trying to hold moisture in, so they're really closing off the outside of that leaf. They don't want to let any more moisture leave the plant. When you're applying a herbicide trying to kill that weed out in the field, it's not taking the herbicide in. So
well, wait,
if you're
let's
not
talk
getting
about
rain,
why, though, it's not taking that herbicide in. Darren mentioned that plant is closing off. Well, how it does that, you've seen plants roll their leaves a little bit. But the more concerning step to us is there will be a wax that will develop on that leaf surface. And the longer it's dry and hot, the thicker that wax is going to become. So if you're going to get a herbicide into the plant, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to bust through that wax, number one. That's where instead of just spraying the herbicide or spraying it with a non-ionic surfactant, you may consider using some type of vegetable oil, or we'll call it methylated seed oil. That's probably the best thing to penetrate through that wax and get the herbicide in. The next problem with a drought-stressed plant is it's just not moving a lot of stuff internally in that plant. And in order to kill any weed, you've got to get the herbicide not only in the plant, you've got to get it to the growing point. So if you don't have a weed that's actively growing, that's challenging. What you're going to have to do is bump the rate and use methylated seed oil.
Well, one other thing you can do too is try to beat some of these defensive mechanisms. Like Brian talks about leaves that roll up, and we often see that in cornfields in the middle of the day. But you know what? Those leaves unfurl at night. So you've got a shot in the earlier morning hours when you can get out in that field and possibly catch that plant while it's still hopeful that it might have a good day.
Also, you can simply wait until you do get some rain, and then maybe the plant will at least be more actively growing, more likely to quickly move that herbicide to the growing point. But I still come back to, you know what, if I've got a plant that's under stress, I'm going to have to do some different things. I'm going to, number one, have to bump the rate as long as I can bump the rate legally. But then in addition to that, I need something else to help penetrate that wax. So those are really the two big things that I would suggest you do if you're fighting this particular issue.
All right, and one thing you said there too, Brian, is just wait. And when we think about waiting, well, I don't want to wait because that weed is going to get really big and I'm not going to be able to kill it. Hey, you can't kill it now. So if you're in this big rush, if I have to spray today, I have to spray today. If that crop is not growing, if that weed is not growing, if you wait a few days, how much growth is it really going to have when you're not getting any rain at all? You probably are best to just wait a few days. Once you get the rain, now's a good time to kill the weed.
All right, and for me, I'm not going to wait. I'm simply going to bump the rate if I can. If I can't bump the rate, then yes, I'm probably stuck to wait. But I'm just going to bump the rate, use methylated seed oil. That's probably going to solve the problem.
Well, that may solve the problem on a drought-stressed weed, Brian, but will it be enough to control our weed of the week? We'll show you how to stop this tough weed later in the show.